Hello and welcome to this tutorial where we're going to be talking about how to increase core strength and stability using the future of core training. And what I mean by that is this isn't some new revolutionary way of training. It's just been lost for the past 30, 40, 50 years. Because when we look at core training for fitness and performance, so sports performance and things like that, what we're using are bodybuilding techniques. Even in rehabilitation, with back pain and other joint pain and other joint injuries, we're using bodybuilding ideas and principles. And what that basically means is we're focusing on the individual muscle. Now, our body doesn't work by focusing on individual muscles. It works by understanding and using movement patterns. So lifting, carrying, pushing, pulling, rotating, getting up. If we want a healthy body, we need to be focusing on improving those movement patterns. Now that's just not the technique of it, but it's also how to hold your body, how to hold your posture and things like that. So that's something that we're really going to be focusing on, and then hopefully it gives you all the more reason to go out, move away from exercises like sit-ups, crunches, side bends, Russian twists, back extensions, things like that, and we can start moving into proper exercises which is more based on movement and movement patterns. When I talk about movement for core training, what do I mean? Well, it all starts with two fundamental principles of how the body works. Number one is the muscles of the torso are designed to prevent movement. The muscles of the limbs or the ball and socket joints are designed to produce movement. So when we talk about bodybuilding exercises of the core, for example, and we talk about sit-ups, crunches, side bends, all those exercises are producing movement at the torso, but that's not how they're designed. We don't want to be focusing on individual muscles. We want to be focusing on the core as a whole that prevents movement, that allows the hips and the shoulders to do their job, which is create powerful movement. So when we're talking about core strength and stability, you're going to get a lot more if you learn to use exercise to prevent movement of the core and then produce it from the hips and the shoulders. So what we're going to do next in the little workshop just behind me here is we're going to look at different movements that use that principle, preventing movement of the core and producing movement at the hips and the shoulders. In this short workshop, we're going to be focusing on three different movements: lifting, getting up, and rotating. So we're going to start with lifting. Now, when we talk about lifting, what we're focusing on, as I've mentioned with the two principles, we are producing the movement from the hips, and we're maintaining proper posture and preventing any movement from the upper body. So what that looks like and what that means is when we move into position, we've obviously got a hip hinge. So again, we are hinging from the hip, we are maintaining the proper posture through the spine, so it's our hip hinge that is the foundation to all of these movements that I'm going to be talking about. So we come into position, we lift, up into position. When we put down, it's just the reverse. Hips go back and up. Now again, if we've got a nice heavy weight, what we're also going to be doing to help stabilize the spine is push shoulders back and down. That's going to engage it's going to engage the pecs and it's going to engage the lats. Now the lats are the real important ones here because they go right across the lower back or the whole of the back into the lower back, into the thoracolumbar fascia, which then join onto the glutes. And if you can create good tension through there, you're going to get that much more as you lift forward from the glutes as well. So when we're talking about lifting, it's feet go either side of the weight, hips go back, there, and up. Now obviously, the heavier the weight, the better, because the heavier the weight is going to encourage you to brace that much more. And what I mean by brace is where you hold everything in tight. So that's holding across the abdominal wall, pushing the shoulders back and down. The heavier the weight, the more that's going to have to happen, the more neurological drive you're going to get to the muscles, and therefore the more strength and stability you're going to get from them. Number two is rotating. Now rotating, I'm going to use these ropes and use a cable machine. Now again, we're focusing on movement of the hips, preventing movement of the spine. So what we're going to do, now you can use, again, any type of chopping movement. But what we tend to find is that when people do the chopping movement, the common one is to go into position, and what they'll tend to do is twist from the spine. Again, that's incorrect because that's going against those two fundamental principles of how the body moves, which is to produce movement from the hips and prevent movement of the spine. So, as we go into position, what we look to do is we hold on here, we shoulders back and down, we take a big step. So you see what I've done is I've taken my whole body with me. So I've not twisted the spine, I'm taking my whole body with me. I then hinge at the hip and pull the weight down. So I take my whole body with me and I pull the weight down. Take my whole body with me, hinge at the hip and come down. You can do exactly the same from low to high. So I'm in this position. And what I want to do, take the whole body with me, come up, push. And as you see, what I'm doing is I'm maintaining the proper position of the spine, but this time I'm coming up through, rotating my whole torso using this hip and this hip. So I'm coming through and then I'm able to push and push. So again, that's shoulders and elbows. So all of that movement is being produced from the hips. Now you can start by just having the weight up high, keeping the position static, pulling down, just to build that movement pattern. Because what we want to try and do is start at a low skill level and build the skill level up to make it a more complicated exercise. Because again, most people that I work with, they don't necessarily have the competencies to have all these complex movements, and then if you throw weight on top of it and load on top of it, it just makes it that much harder. So you can do the same here. You can start with a nice wide stance, again, hinge at the hip, pull through, and just do it from that static position. And then you can move on to more dynamic of stepping and pushing, coming across, stepping and pushing, so on and so forth. So those are the rotating movements. Now you can do it from low to high, high to low, or you can do it straight across. All the principles stay the same in that we maintain proper posture here, engage the muscles of the core and prevent movement of the spine, because when you get heavy enough, your spine and your torso is going to want to bend and shift all over the place. Your muscles are designed to stop all that happening. And the heavier you get, just the same as the lifting, the more you're going to want to bend and shift. But as you stop or prevent that from happening, that's your core muscles working as they're meant to be used. Using then the muscles of the limbs and the ball and socket joints to really create that movement. The final one is getting up. Now, there are lots of different ways of getting up. Now, in movement circles, you can get up from any position. So you can get up from this position. Now, again, what a lot of people will do is they won't have the flexibility through their hips to be able to start in this position and maintain proper position of the spine. But what we're going to focus on is going from here up. So I'm, again, hinging at the hip to come forward. And then I use that momentum to come up onto the knees, step forward, and then up. And then I just do that in reverse. So I go back, again, hold this position, bring that leg around, and go back into position. All the time, getting the movement from the hips. More traditional, the Turkish get-up. Now I'm not going to go all the way down to the floor, I'm going to start a little bit higher just for demonstration purposes. But again, what I'm looking for is in this position, again, I'm upright. So I've got that proper position. Now, I extend my hip using this leg, but back stays into position. I then bring the leg through, again, holding the position of the spine. I come up, so I've gone from this position to this position using the hip. Readjust, again, hold position, step up and through. To go back down, it's here. If I put the weight down, what I then am able to do, I put my hand on my spine. I come back and down. I then come through. Again, all the time, this hand on my back is helping me understand, is my spine moving? Am I rounding my back? Or am I creating the movement from the hip and the powerful muscles of the glutes? because that's the kind of thing that we want to be focusing on. So the future of core training is developing those movement skills, but not only developing the movement skills without weight, then loading them up. Now that's only 3 movement patterns. We've got pushing, pulling, walking, running to do as well. So what we really want to be focusing on is taking these movements, loading them up, and then what that's going to do is that's going to develop our core strength and stability and give us a much more rounded fitness and core strength and stability. So hopefully this has been helpful. Hopefully it's given you a better idea of the types of things you need to be thinking about and learning as you go into the gym, and then you can start translating that with weight and turning it into workouts and, in a sense, performance routines, if you will. So many thanks for watching. My name is Chris from Christopher Holt Training. I'll speak to you in the next tutorial.